Can you bring us up to speed on why this is expedient at this point in time?
When we went for negotiation, we had in mind that we are going to get clearly a negotiated agreement based on cost of living. We met a government team that was not prepared on anything. If this 70,000 you want to pay, how much is transport? How much is basic? How much is housing? We tabulated them. We even tabulated the cost of cooking gas, the cost of bag of rice. We went, and the people from government side didn't have response to it. So it's like, oh, take this. And where we were then, it was biting seriously. We wanted to benchmark it with inflation. But if inflation goes at this rate, let it be self-adjusted. They still refuse. So it's like after a national strike, after a lot of protests, and after even an agreement with the president that it was, if we take 70,000, they were not going to continue to increase pump price of petroleum products, which they reneged. That we reluctantly took this 70,000. Now that the 70,000 is nowhere, and even the former wage award they were given as a relief, they have stopped it. You can see that we have every right to ask for cost of living allowance to mitigate whatever we are getting now. And those are some of the things we are going to raise. Because if you watch the whole lot of money they have made from the so-called removal of subsidy, and a lot of money which the president has equally acknowledged now goes to the governors. And the governors seem not to be doing anything. In some states, they are not faring well in terms of payment of wages. So we have every reason to demand for some wage awards or some reliefs. This has happened before, where even if you go to offices and whatever, people, they come up with food stuff, come up with rice to give to people for them to survive. So it is not a matter of right or wrong. The economy is extremely bad and it's hurting.
2025 May Day celebration, comparing it with the previous May Day celebration, this particular year, we didn't experience May Day celebration in two states, that is Rivers State and Edo State. Why did the Congress decide to take this action? And would there be other further directive moving forward?
Well, the issue of River State should be well understood by anybody. For us to give the sole administrator there an incentive of workers marching through and he's standing there, it's an indirect endorsement of what happened in River State. Of course, it is equally an interim measure, even from a suspension for 6 months or whatever. That does not legitimize the person occupying that seat, clearly. So, and if we give that endorsement inadvertently, we may be encouraging it in other states. So we had to do it clear. But it has created some motives. By yesterday, the government there, maybe government officials, sent for the NLC in the state. All that they stopped, all the colleges of education, they were not paying, signed agreement. The pensioners, they are not paying, they signed agreement, they signed everything. And then the gratuity, they are not paying, they signed agreement. So let them pay, and then know that these are not people that are cheap. It's not, oh, come to the stadium, come to the stadium. And I think we'll resolve that. To that extent, it should make sense to them that if it happens any other place, because the trade union movement happen to be the people at the vanguard of the fight for this democracy. I can tell you that during the military period, I was sent behind bars and all that. So if after, it is true that we didn't take over government as those that fought for it, we will not be seen to be taking action that will encourage, imposition of military people or people that are not democratically elected. So that's the point. As far as Rivers State is concerned. That of Edo is unfortunate that Edo is going this way. Edo used to be a state that we normally use as example, positive example. The Edo State government were accusing our chairman in Edo that he was too close to Obaseki and was too partisan. They even said that if PDP doesn't win, that heads will roll in Edo. Now, the same Edo State government now started patronizing an auditor. The same offense they were accusing the chairman of. They now started encouraging an auditor to serve as an imposter that he's now the chairman of NLC in Edo. We looked at this issue and we made it clear that we don't know this imposter. This is our chairman. But even if you have a complaint about our chairman, you do us a memo that your chairman did this, did that. We set a committee for him and try him based on the rules of NLC and sanction him if he's found guilty. And that was our position until the Minister of Labour intervened and said he wanted to apprehend him. We said with all pleasure. He arranged for us to go to Edo, and I was represented by one of my deputies. And they went and met with the governor, who sounded very well, and promised that he will reach out to me so that we can solve this problem. I waited for him almost 2-3 months. I didn't hear from him. I took his number. I called, he was not picking. And for the guys that he was using as imposters, even their unions gave them directive that nobody should go there. So I want to find out, because the guy that was from Amalgamated, the union wrote there that nobody should go to the stadium. And that's the union controlling him. The other person that was signing as acting secretary, NSC doesn't have acting secretary anywhere. We have paid secretaries. It's from is it secretariat or whatever, The union wrote that nobody should go to the stadium there. So that's the situation. If the governor went there to take parade, I don't know the big deal if the workers say they are doing it in their separate offices. It shouldn't be an issue, and that's our position. Until we resolve the issue there, even if the chairman is incapacitated, our rule doesn't allow an auditor to come up to say he's our chairman. We have a clear rule on how things should be done. So you can't be accusing the previous government there, that they were close to one person, and then you now adopted another person to be close to you, and then commit the same offense. So our leadership there is best known to us, and as of today, we are waiting for a formal complaint. And within 48 hours from here, we are going to set up a panel to investigate whatever might have transpired there, but not this way. Never. Because the labor issues in Edo, we have to resolve it in terms of minimum wage. They have not signed any agreement on even the issue of consequential adjustment. Since he's doing this, we are going to, in the next few weeks, we are going to write him so that he will address the real labor issues.
During the May Day celebration, there was a call for a wage review. Can you tell us why it's expedient for us to have a wage review at this point in time?
There was the Pension Reform Act, which, reformed pension to make it contributory. The Reform Act did not even remove pension. And some ignorant people now said the Pension Reform Act now has removed gratuity. Ignorant in the sense that pension is different from gratuity. And it wasn't a gratuity reform act. And because of that, some of them stopped paying gratuity. And some of our colleagues in the public sector have not done too well by not following them up. From the sector I came from, the electricity, has nobody will enter into an agreement with or write a condition of service without insisting on gratuity. Gratuity is all about being gratuitous. And that's the only lump sum you pay to a worker when he's leaving office, to say thank you. I had an uncle that worked in the then USC, whatever, and they finished, even in the 50s and 40s. Some of them, they gave them this golden wristwatch, as thank you measures, whatever. So that exit token by whatever name or gratuity has not been removed. So, and it will be mischievous for even government, who are equally regulators in the circle, to now stop it. I will not say abolish, because nobody has abolished it. So we are trying to renew the call from all the sectors, for them to demand for this, because we are living after work, you are just going home. You don't have anything to go home. You don't even have anything to eat. You now go to a PFA. A PFA will say they are processing your document, and that's the end. It doesn't happen. In those days, when you pay them that money, some will even buy keke. Some will be managing their life until they start receiving pension. So we insist on it until that is restored, and that's the best way to go. So these are issues we need to look at once more and see how it will affect us, because that period of transition from defined pension policy to contributory pension, there was a lot of loophole which we needed to fill. Coming from the power sector then, we had a superannuation fund, and we insisted that whatever was the quantum of it, because we were doing 25%, should be transferred, and then before we start current contribution.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week for a fresh edition of the show. I am Sharon Ijason. Thanks for watching, and remember that labor creates wealth.